Hey, turns out I'm kind of paranoid and I actually don't have a new roommate, I guess. I'm not even sure. What's up, it's a culture detective here investigating your favorite animes, and today I'm going to be doing an anime review on the new Tengoku Daima Kyo, or Heavenly Delusion, season 1, hoping for a season 2. This is a manga by Ishiguro Masakazu, and it is adapted into an anime this year by Production IG. And this is essentially an anime about post-apocalyptic Japan where all the cities are destroyed and a lot of people are dead and dying and weird things are happening. And the story actually takes place about maybe 12, 13 years after the Great Disaster, after the apocalyptic event. And so we don't really know what exactly happened in the apocalypse, or not apocalypse, I guess disaster. Not the world didn't end, but after the Great Disaster. And essentially, the anime has two separate storylines. We have one where we are outside in the gritty, nitty, apocalyptic world, where we have our main two characters who are Kiriko and Maru, a girl and a boy, sort of traveling through the lands, finding people, trying to survive, finding clues. Both of them have their own objectives, both of them have very special people to find. And then we have the other storyline, which happens within this really clean, high tech facility, like a school where the teachers are essentially evil or they're up to no good, and these kids are like scientific experiments, but they have no idea. They're innocent little children being exploited. And that's basically Tengoku Daima Kyo. Before we hop into the story, I always talk about the OP and EDs first. They're not bad. I don't think they're that great either. I'm so glad that the OP and EDs aren't your average passionate J rock. It's something more dramatic, something more folky. The OP is kind of like a dramatic theatrical ballad. That's also like teeters on rock music, but it's definitely has that folky, adventurous feel to it, which I really like. The ED is this fun little guitar jam, like finger-picked acoustic guitar jam, which definitely has its personality. I don't think it sounds that great, but I guess given how depressing and disturbing the story can be, and then the anime just ends off with something this lighthearted, it's just really funny. It's kind of like Jujutsu Kaisen, except Jujutsu Kaisen is also really lighthearted, so there's a difference. But anyways, what I really like about Tengoku Daima Kyo, or Heavenly Delusion, is that it doesn't try to reveal anything and asks the viewers to figure it out themselves. So I've seen the first 13 episodes of this anime because only 13 episodes have been released so far. And we still basically know nothing about the Great Disaster. Like what happened, we don't know. There are these man-eaters, which are these weird, deformed monsters that roam around Japan. We don't know why do they exist. We don't know how. The facility, the school, the students being exploited. Why? We still don't really know. We don't know a lot of things. There are a couple of special characters that Cuticle wanted to hunt down, and we don't know where they are, or at least one of them by the end of the story. So there are still a lot of questions, a lot of strange things happening, and we do not have any answers. And I actually really like it that way. Kind of reminds me of Lost, but really in terms of anime, it reminds me a lot of Evangelion or Dorohedoro. Well, actually more like Dorohedoro rather than Evangelion, because Evangelion doesn't even answer those questions. But another thing with this anime is that it has double storylines. So we have outside the facility and inside the facility. And for the first half of the anime, there aren't a lot of connections between these two. So aside from small clues here and there. So occasionally, from time to time, there's this imbalance between these two storylines that is kind of lame. Like sometimes I'm more interested in Kiriko and Maru's adventures than whatever's happening inside that creepy school. Sometimes the creepy school is more interesting, and I would feel kind of not again when they jump to the Maru and Kiriko. Episodes 1 to 4 are kind of confusing, not very interesting. At that point, I wasn't really a huge fan of the show. I was a little on the fence maybe in the beginning, especially given that it still has a lot of conventional anime cliches, a bit of fan service here and there. It's not a very serious anime, it seems. But then we have the second half, which gets more and more interesting. Episode 6 sees the duo, that is Kiriko and Maru, fight a bear throughout the entire episode. And that leads to nowhere. So that's pretty much filler. But the second half is where the story really shines. On episode 9, we run into the character of Juichi, who seems like a joke character, but ends up having a bit of an interesting storyline. And I think that he will show up again later in the story, because he seems to have a bit of an interesting adventure. In a lot of ways, this reminds me of The Walking Dead, but a lot more interesting. The Walking Dead, but a lot more supernatural elements and a lot more intricate world building, which is really cool. And then another thing that actually make me like this story is how effectively scary it gets. Some scenes are pretty darn scary, even though the man-eaters themselves are just disgusting, gooey monsters. But usually the scenes that lead up to the discovery of these monsters are pretty creepy. Even the scene where they entered an underwater or an underground train station, and it's filled with water and blood, and then the bear shows up. It's just a bear, but that buildup was pretty scary. But I think the two of the most disturbing moments is really the two suicide scenes that are not one, but two scenes involving suicide in back-to-back episodes. Both of them are equally as disturbing, to say the least. And one of them is even weirder because it takes place in the creepy school, and the person who killed herself looked really weird, and you don't really know why. And then there's another character who sees the future and the past and keeps seeing a dead body. And that's pretty scary. And then we have the ending of episode 9, where the duo enter an abandoned building, even though not much happens, but there's a scene where they walk into a room, and Maru was like, "Kiriko, mite." And Kiriko looks, and it's like a sign, like a sigil, like a demonic sigil or something. Even though it's not demonic, but there's something so menacing about that scene that really stuck to my head. And then finally, we have the 4 episodes 10, 11, 12, 13, which feature a giant turning point in both sides of the storyline. We are getting close to the Takahara facility, which may or may not be the evil, creepy school. And then in the evil, creepy school, we have the facility having a breach. So something really interesting is happening. And the story gets more and more interesting as you see that the story are connecting dots and weaving threads together. It's a constant running theme. Good people turn out to be not so good. Good places turn out to be not so good. Small details turn out to be big details. Communities turn out to be empty and abandoned, and apparently everyone's dead. This story deals in disillusionment and corruption, and every time I finish an episode, and by the time I finish this season, it actually leaves a pretty bitter taste. Despite the funny, goofy anime cliches and the ooh my and the frigging fan services, at the end of the day, this anime is actually a lot more intelligent than I'd expected, because it's restrained. It doesn't spoon feed information to the viewers, and it requires the viewers to connect dots. And it's also, again, very mature in what it's trying to say. There are a lot of themes being explored: politics, the science community, regret, guilt, ethics, and they're all being touched on here and there in this really interesting scattered pattern. And of course, everyone has to talk about the scene on episode 12, the very traumatic scene that involves a bit of the R word. Yeah, that scene is really traumatic, and the way they showed it was definitely very disturbing. Episode 13 shows the aftermath of that, and a lot of people complain that the character who got assaulted didn't react properly to that incident. And I kind of agree, but also maybe in season 2 they will explore more of that in the future. So I don't really know for now, but damn, this anime does not hold back. And the last episode, the ending of the last episode also has a really brilliant plot twist that actually isn't exactly a plot twist because it doesn't straight up reveal itself. I didn't find out that it's actually a plot twist until I looked at Reddit, a discussion on the last episode, where I'm like, oh, oh shit, I just got bamboozled. So yeah, I'm actually pretty impressed. I came out impressed, and I ended up being quite hooked to the story, and I look forward to season 2. I am giving Tenkoku Daima season 1 a decent 8 out of 10. So have you watched this anime? Comments below, let me know. Subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching.